Hello? 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 Hello?
that side you not go. But it's even difficult to hear here. You can hear because it's coming, it's connected to the earphones direct. Yeah, it's coming. This side, 1 and 2. Okay, one has gone there now. It's not working. This is working now. So which one is it? The sound seems not to be smooth. Now it's okay. Try to hear again. Now it's okay. Let me come. We'll give you a feedback.
Today, we have another year of Shiva and coming to level and also at the social level on the youth and LGBTQA. LGBTQA coming from. And that's coming from where is it now? And further, where is it taking our society? Where is it taking our youth away?
Yes, cut completely.
Where is it
There is no
taking
sound
our
again.
child away?
If it's money that is
The political level and at a community level, at a society level,
and many people are here.
what has it brought
Many
to
people are
us?
outside actually.
And I guess nobody talks of anything positive
What
about
do I
it.
do? I go for this one.
And so it's best that this afternoon I'll discuss with friendly, not discussion only on LGBTQA and the churches closed in Africa, but also against LGBTQA+. Having considered the role that you may feel at home, enjoy this session, that you may find as much as possible as you can, so that at the end of the day, it will be of self-benefit and also the benefit of the whole community, especially for those who we serve and interact with. May I bring to your attention that there are places of convenience around the hall, just behind the hall here. On my right, there are places that are marked for ladies and gents. Feel free to visit those opportunities, and we ask all of us to feel at home and be as open as possible, that you may all gain and also gain for others for this particular bill that has come and approach our society and negatively affected. At this juncture, allow me to welcome Reverend Deacon Ernest to lead us through the gift of the Holy Spirit that we may keep off our program.
This one is for the whole day. So
Kindly close our eyes.
we can be buying one of week 20 every 30 minutes. And at least we can buy 800 5 GB. Okay. This microphone is more powerful than I feel it is speaking well. One of my better. So I suggest you disconnect this. Yes. Let's leave it like that, I don't know. It's a sound good.
Thank you very much, Brother Patrick, for the opening prayer. At this moment, I would like to welcome the Rector of the Bosco, very well arranged at the end of June for the official opening of this theological forum.
Panel of eminent speakers for this afternoon. My dear Principal Father Dr. Kauli, the members of the teaching staff, our lecturers, our esteemed students of Don Bosco Salesian Theological College, all the invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. So I am given this privilege to welcome all of you, including myself, into this moment, to be present, at least in this moment in our life, what we call kairos, a time that may come and just disappear. And if we were not present, then it has gone. A moment in our history when we are called as human beings, but also as believers in God, to be present to the reality of the human person and to reflect on a theme as important as this, but reflect upon it as believers, as Christians. My dear brothers and sisters, my role is to declare open this forum in which theologically we reflect on this issue, which I would even call phenomenon of youth and LGBTQA+, and to begin to think together about the church's response. I would say that this is a phenomenon that is not only touching the social dimension of the human person, or even the moral dimension, but also the very deep calling, the deepest calling of the human person, to live true to the Creator and Maker, and to live. And so we are asking also this question: what is the church's response in Africa to this phenomenon? The church, understood here not as the Pope alone, or the bishop, or the cardinals in their own jurisdictions or parochials, but the church as you and me, members of the body of Christ. What is our response? And our response, not as Americans, not as Saudi Arabians, not as Europeans, but as Africans, church in Africa. I believe that the sharing that we will receive here, both from our speakers, main speakers, and the interaction that we are going to have together here, will give us a sense of understanding and direction towards approaching this issue. But we must say that for many of us, it's strange, maybe it's something that we are not used to, it's something that this forum now open. Thank you. Thank you so much, Coordinator, very Reverend Father Adam Abi, SED, for officially opening this forum and enlightening us in the progress in which we are supposed to listen and understand this topic this afternoon. Without wasting any time, allow me, brothers and sisters, to introduce to you the first speaker of the day. His name is Dr. Mahoney Ngare. Dr. Mahoney Ngare is an obstetrician, is a gynecologist, and a laparoscopic. Dr. Mahoney is a husband of Dr. S. Mahoney, a father of Ngare, Nyigi, and Ngare. He graduated as a medical doctor in 1991 and is the practicing obstetrician and gynecologist since 2000. He runs Mercy Medical Center at Cardinal Motuma Plaza within the complex of the Holy Family Minor Basilica. Dr. Biomedical is a parishioner of Mary Health of Christians Parish, Don Bosco, Africa. He is a member and director of the Catholic Men Association. Dr. Lade is the chairperson of Catholic Doctors Association and a member of Catholic Justice and Peace Commission and a member of Biomedical of the Archdiocese of Nairobi. Dr. Lade is a prolific member and a member, is a prominent member and a member of the Biomedical Kenya Professionals Forum. This profile will be so huge to learn to go on through. May I take this opportunity to welcome to the pulpit our head speaker, Dr. Wangari, Dr. Wangari, to lead us through this first part. Let us welcome him with a round of applause.
God is good. And all the time.
God is good and God is essential.
Yes, so if you say Wangari in my mother tongue, it is a girl. I'm happy to be here and I'm honored. There is one title that was overlooked, so I'm no longer the moderator of CMA. We were in elections and we got somebody else. But I'm also the grandfather to Modoni and Washera. That was missed. Very good. So I'm here to discuss a very difficult topic. And I may use language that may embarrass some of you, and I apologize in advance. Because when we are discussing the genitals, they don't have other names. Okay? The key verse I chose for this discussion is John 4:44. And really it's just to remind us who is the father of lies. Because a lie is giving an intentionally false statement, and that is what we'll be discussing most of this afternoon. We are discussing LGBTQ from a biomedical perspective, and I just wanted to emphasize that medicine cannot be practiced in a vacuum. As a doctor and as a member of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, the Hippocratic oath we take is sworn to the Almighty God, and therefore I practice my medicine guided by the tenets and teachings of the Catholic Church. LGBTQ plus exclusively attracted gays to men, bisexuals to both. Transgender is one who is moving from being male to female or female to male, saying they are born in the wrong body. And a queer is a person who doesn't want to label themselves lesbian or gay or whatever, so they prefer to say they are queer. Q can also be for questioner, somebody who's still trying to find themselves. Then there is a sexual. This one is not attracted to either gender. And then there is A can also be allies, where a straight person is said to be me and you. So we are attracted to people of the same or the opposite sex. And if we support the cause of the LGBTQ plus, then we are called allies. So that's your LGBTQ. The plus is because there are many, many others. I can't remember the last count. There are many others. Now, when we come to same-sex attraction or relationships, or rejection of the biological sex, I would like to put it to you as Christians that it is extremely dangerous to use the LGBTQ language. We should not be talking about homosexuals or gay or lesbians or transgenders. We should describe what it is we mean because there's too much confusion out there. And the simplest way to deal with this is somebody tells you, I am gay, ask them what they mean. What do you mean? So are you saying you are attracted to people of the same sex? Are you saying you're having same-sex relationships? If you say you're transgender, what do you mean? I'm rejecting my biological sex. So those would be the terms that would be good for us if we discuss them as same-sex attraction or relationships or rejection of biological sex, then we don't get lost. So I'll try and answer the following question. Do we have such people in our homes and societies? Do we have them? Yes, we have them. We have people who reject their biological sex, people who are attracted to people of the same sex, people who are having sexual relations with people of the same sex, and they are our uncles, they are our sisters, they are our aunties. We have them in society. Now, are these behaviors or attractions? No. And to answer that question, we then must answer what is the biological basis of being male or female. We need to answer what is the biological value of being a male or female. We need to also ask what is the biological value of attraction to the opposite sex. And if we come to the conclusion that it's not normal, then we must answer why did it happen? And what will be the long-term effects of such relationships? Who would be the greatest beneficiary if this behavior took root? And who would be the greatest loser? Now, when you hear the LGBTQ debate, you think we have half the world population is LGBTQ, isn't it? There is so much noise. We have stopped everything we are doing to come here and discuss this topic, as if it's the most important thing that we have to do this afternoon. All right? Now, when you look at the numbers, these numbers are very small. So this is an Ipsos survey by the LGBTQ people themselves. And the global country average of people who think they are anything else other than male and female is only 2%. Now, when you look at or listen to the noise around you, you see the TV series that have people with this behavior, you'd think is half the world population. It's just 2% of the global population. And when you look at it again from the sexual orientation, again you find roughly the same figures. This one is a little more, so the highest here is 17%, and in South Korea is as low as 2%. But this trend is important. In 1987, there were over 50% of the people felt that the LGBTQ debate had gone too far. In 2014, that number had reduced to about 35. In other words, our attitude towards this is changing. And when you look at the resistance towards people who have same-sex attraction holding particular offices, public life, what was there in 1983 is very different from what was there in 2015. The attitude is changing. So why is attitude changing? Because there has been a relentless campaign to normalize this behavior, and it is well funded. It comes to us through the United Nations, it comes to us through movies, music, advertisements, enactment of laws. We have judicial activism, like we have seen with the Supreme Court on their ruling about the registration of this NGO. In the United Nations, it is coming to us through the Structural Development Goals. Ministry of Education is coming to us through comprehensive sexuality education. Ministry of Health, it is being pushed as what is called sexual reproductive health and rights. So there is a lot of money being pushed, and therefore over time, parents and youth, especially in the West, have started taking this as normal. And we have reached a point where we actually believe there is what you can call an LGBT community or LGBTQ people. That is a big, big mistake. Because whether you are attracted to people of the opposite sex or the same sex, you remain a human being. You are not a special community outside of humanity. So let's explore whether this is true. Now, one of the greatest challenges our youth are having is whether truth is objective or whether it is relative. And this chart is commonly used. Between the 6 and the 9, who has the right figure? So there is a figure drawn on the ground. Is it a 9? Is it a 6? The fellow who is on the which side of the screen? So for you it will be on the left. He's saying it's a 6. The other fellow is saying it's a 9. And both of them are correct, isn't it? And therefore the teaching is supposed to be, just because you're right does not mean I am wrong. You just haven't seen life from my side, isn't it? So if I tell you I'm homosexual and you don't agree with me, it's okay. You see, it is my truth, and we don't have to agree. It's just the way I see life, all right? And we don't need to argue about it. Have you had that discussion before? Have you come across that discussion? That, the truth is relative, it is not objective. But if we were to solve this puzzle, is it true that that is a 9 or is it true it's a 6? Is it a 9 or a 6? So even you can't agree. Okay, now, could that digit have appeared on the ground on its own? Somebody wrote it, and they could not have written both a 6 and a 9. So it must be a 6 or a 9. True? How about we go up and look at these two charts from above? Right? So the green guy here is saying it's a 9, the blue one is saying it is a 6. So we are looking at them from above, isn't it? Now, because somebody drew these numbers, we actually discover that there are more numbers. And it is a series. So is that a 9 or a 6? It is a 6. So every time you are arguing about something, it means you have not found the truth. And then once we find the truth, we all know who 666 is, and we know that objective truth is the word of God. And we shouldn't have confusion about this matter. So let's go to my favorite topic, between the egg and the chicken, which came first. So I don't have much time, but engage you a little more. But if you say it is the egg, then I'll ask you, who laid the egg? If you say it is the hen, then I'll ask you from which egg did it hatch? And therefore we can argue like the 9 and the 6 the whole day, isn't it? And what this chart is used to do to those who are believers is to tell us it's not possible to know when life began. Because between the egg and the chicken, we can't agree which came first. And therefore, we can talk about evolution and people coming from monkeys and so on and so forth. But the problem with this, just like the 6 and the 9, there is deception. There is a lie that we have been told all our lives. Because this is the human cycle we are taught. It always starts with an adult female. And the problem here is that the male is missing. So without the male, that egg will not be fertilized and will never hatch into anything. Are we together? Yes. Now, if there is a male, then there is mating, the egg is fertilized, and now we can get a chick. The problem with this is that when we believe that the male and the female came together as full-grown adults, ready to mate and lay the first fertilized egg, then we must believe in a creator. Are we together? So removing the man from the life cycle gives us the following consequences. It separates humanity from God and the truth. So the life cycle we have been taught is godless and removes God from creation. It encourages us to disregard our spiritual existence, which would be our soul and our conscience. It separates the man from the woman and the children, and it leads to fatherlessness. The man is no longer important when we're discussing reproduction. In fact, reproduction is now called woman's health. There is no man involved. In fact, you can get sperms from the bank and get yourself a child. It has also allowed a great blow to masculinity, especially by radical feminists. The man is presented as a stumbling block to the development of the woman, and is even presented to be less than the woman. Okay? What a man can do, a woman can do better. If we were saying what a woman can do, a man can do better, we'd be in a lot of trouble, isn't it? But all of a sudden, we're supposed to accept this insult. Not being guided by the truth or being disconnected from the truth is spiritual illness. The minute you're not guided by the truth, you're sick spiritually, and it will lead to mental illness. And this is how it does it. A person who sees or views another of the same sex as a mate, as somebody with whom you could have sexual relations and even have children, that person is suffering from delusion, which is a mental illness. Are we together? So if I come to this congregation and I tell you I am President Ruto and I don't like the way you are treating me, would you cheer me or would you call my family and tell them I'm sick? Why is it that I come and I tell you I'm attracted to men and I should be cheered and encouraged? Are we together? So if one sees people of the same sex as potential mates, that person is suffering from delusion. If you understand about sex and they tell us sex is assigned at birth, again I want to correct that, and we declare this to be a boy or a girl. It is not us who make them boys or girls, isn't it? Sex is not assigned, it is scientifically observed at birth. Now, a person who rejects their biological sex is also suffering from delusion. If I stand before you here today and I tell you I am a woman, and if you don't call me she, I'm going to sue you, then you should again call my family and tell them I'm not well. You're not supposed to celebrate me. There is something wrong. Now we go to the gender ideology. This gender ideology was developed by a gentleman called John Money. And John Money, before John Money popularized the gender ideology, gender was used to discuss inanimate objects. Okay, so we would refer to the land as female because it gives forth fruit. Yes? We would talk about the key being male and the padlock being female. It was never really used to describe human character until John Money came up with his gender ideology. He's the same one who described sexual orientation. He's the same one who described gender identity. And in gender, he believed that gender was different from biological sex. So I can be born male, but I can be of a different gender. He believed it was fluid, it was self-identified, it is me who says what gender I am, it is not what you're seeing, and it can change. And he also believed that you could bring up a child who is a boy to become a girl by the age of 3 years or thereabouts. And he could bring up a boy to become a girl. So nurturing could change somebody's gender. Now, he had a chance to prove his theory in what is called the John Joan case. It's a very sad case of a couple that was in Canada. They got twins, They had a medical problem that required circumcision to correct. It's called phimosis. And when they went to theater to do this surgery, they were using some new technology at that time. And unfortunately, they burnt off the penis of the first boy they were going to operate on. And therefore, they abandoned the second surgery. And we have a couple who have two boys, one without a penis, one with one. And they read about John Money and his theory, and they cross over to the US, and they go and they take these children to John Money. And John Money says, it's not a problem, we are going to bring up this one as a girl. Okay, so she was given a girl's name, was dressed like a girl. They did a bit of surgery down there to make her look like a girl. And they would come and visit John Money, and he would even make them have play acting, where the girl is lying down and the boy lies on her, like they are having sexual activities. But by the time the young man was a teenager, he was very mixed up, and he felt something was wrong because he had felt like he was a boy. And by the time they were beyond 3 years, John Money's experiment had failed. Instead of giving up, he gave this young man female sex hormones. And she grew breasts and had long hair, her voice became feminine. But he was still very confused, and he had attempted suicide several times as a young person. And the father decided to tell him the truth of what had happened in his childhood. He then took the name David Raymond and started living like a man. In their early 30s, David's brother committed suicide because of depression and the things they had gone through in their childhood. David later also died by suicide. And their father blamed himself for the loss of the two boys and also died by suicide. This is the theory of the man we are being asked to give up our faithful and follow. That is the gender ideology. This is the man who describes it. It failed when he was trying it. And today we have people who are taking studies on gender studies based on this theory. Now, it makes a lot of sense to know somebody's sex, to even put it on their birth certificate and put it on their ID, because men and women must be treated differently in certain sectors of our sociological sex, and it can change. How many times will you change your ID? And if the ID would not help us to know if this is a male or a female, and you are allowing people to dress like men and women, and we are teaching our children to wait until after marriage to have sex, are we not encouraging people to cheat our own children? So let's look at authentic sexuality, see whether we can answer a few questions. Now, the basic moral code of sexual relationships in a civilized society is this, that if you are not married, you have a moral responsibility to avoid sexual intercourse. Are we together? It is not our business to find out if you are having sex. It is your personal responsibility to know that if you are not in a committed relationship called marriage, then you should avoid sexual intercourse. And I'm using civilized society because civilized societies are guided by the truth. And some of the societies we are seeing in Europe today are not civilized anymore. Now, I would like to invite you to think about procreation as a spiritual sacrifice. And we look at the role of the man. He is the high priest. He is calling on God to make him a father. And the sacrifice he is giving is his life-giving seed. And the woman is the altar. The woman that he has nominated to be his mate is the altar. And that is what makes the man and the woman co-creators with God. The man has called on God to make him a father. Parenting then becomes the responsibility of ensuring that the new soul that has been created by God on request of this man is brought to the fullness of knowledge of God so that eventually that soul may go back to the Father. We don't believe in reincarnation, so every child who is conceived, a new soul is created. And it becomes the responsibility of those parents, especially the father, to guide that soul back to the Creator. So men bear more responsibility when it comes to procreation and the spiritual formation of children. And I like giving the example of a maize farmer to explain some of the things that men go through as challenges. A farmer goes and finds a beautiful piece of land that is very fertile, and it's during the rainy season, and he scatters maize seeds. And then he goes back and comes back after a month and finds maize growing. And he looks at this field and he curses it. And he says, "What is wrong with you? How could you grow maize?" Are we together? So you had sex with this girl and she tells you she's pregnant, and you say, "I'm shocked." No, that was not the plan. What is the difference? The woman is the custodian of fertility, and the woman is only fertile for about 4 to 6 days in a month. I won't be able to take you through this chart completely. But the girl child should be able to know that these are my menses and this is how I feel before they come. She should know this is my fertility and this is how I feel before it comes. She should be trained to be able to identify her fertility, because in marriage, she is supposed to use that gift of the capacity to give us new life, to either give us a child or to space the children if the other one is too young. And this can be taught. And women who have not been taught about the ovulation cycle have been denied a right. This is actually female empowerment. Every woman must understand her fertility, how she feels before it comes, so that she can recognize when she is fertile to be allowed to make a choice as to whether to have a child or not. If the man understands he is calling on God to give him a child, then he understands that he must listen to his wife, and together they work to space the children or get the children, depending on what is the right thing to do at that point in time. So when we come to procreation, what is the key? Is the key male or female? I had given you the answer. Between the key and the padlock, which is male, which is female? The male genitals are designed to deliver the male seed into the woman. The male is the giver. He's the one who is giving. The female system is designed to receive these to facilitate fertilization, implantation, birth, and the nursing of the child. The woman is the receiver. And I would like to make it categorical that the mouth and the anus are not sexual organs. They are part of the digestive system. You are laughing, but there is confusion. Now, people have used fancy names like anal sex and oral sex, but anytime you are having sexual relations with the aim of only experiencing sexual pleasure, but you close it to life, you're not having sexual intercourse, you're masturbating. So there is somebody who's using another man's anus to masturbate, and we're supposed to celebrate. Are we together? There is a man who's using another one's mouth to masturbate, and we're supposed to celebrate. One of the most difficult things to treat is gonorrhea of the tonsils. How do tonsils get gonorrhea? So, when it comes to pornography, sexual activity was designed for performing. It was not designed for watching. You're watching people having sex, you get excited, then what? It will turn you into a pervert, isn't it? So the man and his wife are supposed to create a little movie that is private, that is not being watched by anyone. And you don't need to watch people doing these things to be creative. Yes? The first ever male-female relationship is marriage ordained by God Himself. The second relationship is the parent, where you become a father and a mother, and that child that is conceived is known by God before you conceive that child, and has been sent here for a purpose. And the only way they will achieve their purpose if you teach them to be obedient to God. And that's what parental responsibility is. Our sex is determined at birth. XY chromosomes, I don't have enough time to go through all this. But if there is a Y chromosome, let me use this one to demonstrate to you. So inside our mother's womb before the 9th week of pregnancy, there is a primitive male system that is in red, and there is a primitive female system that is in blue. And the gonads are not testes or ovaries. They're indifferent. If there is a Y chromosome, then the Y chromosome triggers this gonad to become testes. And the testis produces testosterone, which is the male hormone. And when that happens, the female system regresses and the male system develops. And if there is no Y chromosome, the opposite happens. The male system degenerates, the female system becomes. So the same organ that becomes the testis is the same organ that becomes the ovary. Are we together? Now the next one, I will spare you the picture because you may be thoroughly embarrassed. But when the hormone testosterone is produced, the external opening of the child at 5 weeks is also not male or female. And when exposed to the testosterone hormone, the organ that will become the clitoris in the girl is the one that prolongs and becomes the penis in the boy child. What would become the lips of the birth passage of the woman is what closes up and becomes the scrotum in a boy. Now, why is it important for us to understand these factors? It's because things can go wrong at the point of development. Now, one of the things that can go wrong is that the wrong type of hormone can be produced, and the child is brought up as a boy. And then when they become teenagers, they start menstruating. Because they have a uterus, they have a birth passage. What everybody thought was a penis was actually an enlarged clitoris. Are we together? Now, the other one is lack of response to hormones. This is a boy child. The testes are producing testosterone. The body cells refuse to respond. The child is born female. At puberty, they don't produce any, they don't get periods. You do a scan, there is no uterus. You do the genetic profile, they are male. But they look like female. And the one that is most challenging is what people call intersex, where you end up with two sperms maybe fertilizing one egg, and you end up with an XXY instead of an XY. Or you end up with double genes. And when this happens, you find the gonad may be half the gonad becomes testis, half the other gonad becomes an ovary. Right? Sometimes the child is born, you look between the legs and you can't tell whether they are male or female. It's called ambiguous genitalia. And until this child goes through the secondary sexual characteristics, we would never know whether they are male or female. So most of them are brought up as female, and then at puberty they become boys. And those are sometimes called intersex. The correct name is the disorder of sex development. So we do not talk about intersex persons. We talk about persons with intersex. Intersex is a developmental disorder, just like a hole in the heart, cleft lip. They are not. You don't label them intersex. They are just persons living with a disability that is called intersex. So I've been told I have 10 minutes. There is a study that was done by Maro, and they studied 20,000 different protein coding genes, and they found that 6,500 of those genes developed, expressed differently in men and women. So the same gene, but in a woman it produces something different, and in a man it produces something different. That is how different we are as men and women. When it comes to brain development, again, it is different. The way the brain develops when it is exposed to testosterone is different from when it's not exposed to testosterone. So children are born already with characters that are male, characters that are female. And that is a biological fact. Now, our children are seeing pictures like this, where there is a man with a beard who is pregnant. Now, this is what transgenderism is, and I tell you, impersonation is a crime. It is wrong for you to present yourself as a man when you are a woman, and vice versa. It is a criminal offense, because you're going to mislead people who don't want to play your game. So a transgender man is a female who has taken male hormones, might look feminine, has grown a beard like the gentleman here, but she still has her uterus, and she still has her genital organs and can have sexual relations that are normal and get pregnant. And sometimes they will do what they call top surgery, remove their breasts so that the chest is flat. A transgender woman is a man who has been given female hormones and looks like a woman. They can get breast implants, like the woman there, and sometimes they actually cut off their genitals and create a little hole that is supposed to be used by the partner during masturbation. So it's called bottom surgery. So transgender, a man cannot become a woman by wishing or through surgery. This is a fact. Neither can it happen the other way around. Now, if you give a man hormones and he looks like a woman and you cut off his genitals, he remains a deluded man who has now suffered severe genital mutilation. And it's the same for the woman. And such intervention is actually cruel, and it is medically unethical. This one of the teenage brain, I will go very fast. The brain is the last organ to mature. The sexual part of the brain matures by about 14, 15. So 14-year-old are completely sexually mature and can have sexual relations and have children. But the part of the brain that controls our reasoning capacity does not develop fully until 21 to 24 years of age. You cannot train teenagers to make sexual decisions. They don't have the capacity to do so. So that's a picture of a good man. He is trying to put on a power saw while holding it between his legs. And if that power saw goes on, you know what happens. Eh? That is what happens when you try to teach teenagers to make sexual decisions. They don't have the capacity. What happens when father feels disrespected or the woman feels unloved? This is what happens. The man leaves. And the woman says, I don't need a man. And her daughter says, I don't want a man. And the little boy says, I don't want to be a man. Were they born that way? These tendencies have been found to be related to adverse childhood events. And if one has a physically, emotionally, or sexually abusive father, or they've been exposed to pornography, so would tend to increase the risk of them becoming homosexuals. If you have a protective or controlling mother, then you perceive female authority, then you don't want to be male. If they feel they have been rejected by their peers, bullying, you don't look like a man, go away, you look like a girl. And if you have a hostile, detached, or absent father, the tendency tends to be more towards homosexual attraction. What does fatherlessness do to children? 90% become homeless, 85% have behavioral disorders, including same-sex attraction. 85% of the youth in prison have a problem with their father. 75% of the children who are in drug abuse. 80% of the rapists have a problem with their father. 71% of dropouts, teenage suicide, and convicted serial killers. All about absent fatherhood. And that's what if that is in their life? 49% more likely to finish school, 45% less likely to repeat a grade, 60% less likely to be suspended or expelled from school, twice as likely to go to college and find stable employment, and 75 less likely to have teen births, and less likely to spend, 80% spend less risk of spending time in prison. So I want to put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that the LGBTQ plus is an ideology. It is not a community. And there are three groups of people involved here. They are our brothers and sisters who are suffering from same-sex attraction and rejection of their biological sex because of what they have gone through during their early childhood. These are people we must treat with love and care because they are the ones who fall victim to the LGBTQ ideology. The human lifestyle. And because we are human beings with a soul, there will be death in the community, and some souls will be sent away from the Father, and some souls will find their way back to the Father. As Christians in that community, it is our business to reduce that dark void by sharing the good news of our salvation. So, who Who benefits from the LGBTQ confusion? When we make our decisions based on a framework of lies, only the power of lies benefits. God wants to ask why somebody is pushing the LGBTQ agenda. Just know that it will take people to hell, and behind it you will see the real person pushing the agenda. Who is the greatest loser? The kingdom of God. Because it is our duty as Christians to spread the good news of our salvation to all creation, and we shall be held accountable both here and in the life to come. So, in my conclusion, we must reject the gender ideology in its totality. We must reject using their terms. Let us not talk about homosexuals and lesbians and stuff. Let us say, my son is experiencing same-sex attraction. My son is in a same-sex relationship. My son is rejecting his biological sex. And we then take our unwell brothers, treat them with love and kindness, and support them, and explain to them that if we would only explore their childhood and see what it is they're going for, we will be able to bring them to a place of healing. But then we must firmly reject to affirm their delusion. It is cruel to affirm their delusion. For those who are funding and promoting LGBTQ, they are enemies, and they must be exposed. They must be resisted by all people working in all spheres of our life. We must restore the dignity of masculinity. So, a fellow who like Satan himself goes to the heavenly gates, and he says, but I identify, and the good angel says, we don't play that game up here. I put it to you that we should not play that game down here either. So, Saint Augustine says the truth is like a lion, you don't have to defend it, you let it loose, and it will defend itself. I have told you the truth, the rest is up to you. Thank you very much.
Quite challenging, and I believe by now we have some answers, some clarifications, but at the same time we still have a chance to approach again our doctor. We thank you very much, Dr. Wahome, for the presentation. May we again thank him by a round of applause. So that was on the medical point of view from doctor. And what follows next, we want to look at it from the psycho-cultural understanding. Of course, we have been discouraged to use this term, LGBTQA+, but I believe Doctor will forgive us, so now we'll still use it. Okay, so the one who's going to present this topic, psycho-cultural understanding of LGBTQ+, is Dr. Jacqueline A. Anundo. I'm going to read her profile just as it is put down here. So Dr. Jacqueline A. Anundo is a registered clinical psychologist with over 15 years of experience in mental health treatment, training, and research. She's the founder and clinical director of Kisiwa Wellness and Psychosocial Support Services, a mental health consultancy that offers the following services: mental health assessment, placement and treatment, mental health talks or training for various corporate organizations, faith-based organizations, NGOs, health facilities and learning institutions, mentorship programs, career coaching programs, and research. Dr. Anundo is a part-time lecturer at Amref International University and has been invited from time to time as a guest trainer at Hekima University College of Peace Studies. She has held various leadership and managerial roles in different organizations spanning over 15 years. She has authored and published 6 journal articles in the area of mental health, including a newsletter article in Pax Lumina. She is a registered member of Kenya Psychiatric Association, Clinical Psychologists Association of Kenya, and American Psychological Association. She has a PhD in clinical psychology from Desa University, Kenya. She holds a Master of Science degree in clinical psychology from the University of Nairobi. She is an international certified addiction professional, as well as a certified global trainer. In her free time, Dr. Anundo enjoys game drives, yoga, traveling, swimming, music, and trying out new recipes. We can see how prepared she is to share with us her knowledge and on this topic that we are looking into today. Without further ado, allow me to invite Dr. Jacqueline A. Anundo to come forward and present. And may we please welcome her with a round of applause.
So all protocols observed. Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. I think to the organizers, next time, don't allow such an eloquent presenter to come before us, because now I do not know whether I'll be able to match up, but I'll try my best. Dr. Wahome has talked about the biological perspective. I'm here now to give you the psychological perspective. So the good doctor has done very well to give the definition, so I would kindly ask you to move until you see the etiology of homosexuality. So I will not be able, I'll not go through the history or even the definitions. As of Monday, when I looked at the terminologies of the different sexual orientations, I found them to be 47. I don't know whether today others have been added, but we will keep on catching up with them so that we get to understand them. But as the initial suggests, LGBTQ, there's an I in between the Q and the I and the A to mean intersex who have recently been grouped under the LGBTQ. So there is the plus that even the doctor talked about. That means that there are many others. Probably that's why I saw 47 terminologies. So we'll go straight to the psychological perspective, and we'll look at the different areas as far as psychological perspective is concerned. So as you've been told in my profile, I run a mental health consultancy, and I also teach in the evening, and I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. So before I begin, there's a time I got invited to give a talk regarding substance use to an international organization. So when I reached there, it was a large group. I'd arrived with my team. So we decided to divide the groups into two. There were about 50-something. So we divided the men and the women to, so that we could train them differently. Because at the end of the day, we were supposed to come up with rehabilitation that address specific needs of women, and then those that address specific needs of men, so that we don't have rehabilitations that, are generalized. So when we told them to move to the respective rooms, they moved, but we found a small group that did not move. So we asked, okay, of course you are assuming that since you are male, you are directing them, go this side, the female, go this other side. But they said, no, we do not identify as male or female. Yeah. And so we were in a dilemma, where do we group them? How do we come up with, a rehabilitation that is specific to their needs? And yet this is something that is not being recognized legally in Kenya. So what do we do? And they refused completely. Some of them actually decided to go away, not to attend the training. Others just said, okay, we'll attend, but we need you to adjust, and incorporate our group, our family, our community. Now, in my clinic, there are times when we do couple sessions or marital therapy sessions. We are a group of psychologists. So this lady walks in and says that, I'm here with my husband, and we have problems, and I'd like to be seen. I said, okay, would you like to be seen now? And she said, yes, now, because this is a crisis. So she calls the husband to come upstairs. You're on 4th floor. So the husband walks in, and they tell the marriage and family therapist that we have a couple for you to see. So a fellow lady walks in, and the psychologist comes out and tells me, Jackie, where is the husband? And then I tell her, the husband was supposed to come up and walk into the room. As in the husband walked in, she said, no, I think that is the sister or somebody. Because it's not in our culture, right? So we make that assumption that, of course, if you see a fellow female, you'd assume it's a cousin or a sister, not a husband. But actually that was the husband. So your guess is as good as mine, the kind of emotional turmoil that the psychologist was going through. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we are now facing. These are things that were being done behind the curtains, but nowadays they're very bold. They would come out and they would even tell you, because sometimes I run clinics in certain hospitals, they tell you that this form, this part for gender, where is other? Yeah, because they cannot feel male or female. So basically, these examples I'm giving you is to tell you that this thing is at home with us. And I'm happy that we've organized this forum so that we can be able to enlighten each other about it, because these are not stories that we are reading in the papers or watching in the media, it's at home. Some of us have brothers and sisters who have come out to say they are gay. That's so. What do you do? Some of us, I know of a certain couple, there were two couples. So these two couples have been friends for years. But what these two ladies didn't know is that these men were actually in a relationship. Currently, the couples are going through a divorce process. Yeah? So basically, this thing is something that is home with us. So that's the psychological. Yeah, that's the slide I want. So our cultural experiences are based on the examples that I'm giving you. Yeah. Probably if it was somewhere else, in the West, it would not be so strange. But for us, That is something that, it has caught up with us and we're really trying to understand it. Is it normal? Is it not normal? The doctor has explained the biological perspective, yeah, but the cultural perspective of it. I tried looking for African names for homosexuality terminologies. I didn't find. Is there anyone who knows any? Anyone? So that you can get to learn them? Eh? In your mother tongue. Is there terminology? Anyone who has found any? So when you look at culture, yeah, our African cultural experiences do not have LGBTQIA plus. These are things that have come up and we are really trying to be able to understand what they are. Now we also have what we call adverse childhood experiences. ACEs. So ACEs include physical, emotional, or even sexual abuse. It can also be a mental illness that runs the family. It can be domestic violence. It can be a divorce or separation. And maybe that is what you find you went through as a child. So you've grown up, you've been socialized in such an environment. So you find that some of the things that we go through in childhood, if there are things that were not, they caused us trauma, we can carry them into adulthood. And sometimes, let me give an example of sexual abuse. If you were sexually abused and there was no justice, nothing was done about it, and you keep on even seeing the perpetrator because most likely it's a family member or someone who is known to the family. But culture dictated that maybe a goat or a cow was paid and that issue ended. But what happens to this person? There was no justice. So this person lives with that kind of trauma throughout their life. What happens is that this person may develop a negative attitude or hatred towards people of the same sex like that of the perpetrator. And research has found that sometimes, if you take a history of LGBTQIA+, most of them have been found to have gone through such kind of traumas. Several studies have been done to this extent, and it has been found that quite a large percentage, like in a particular study that you can see on the screen there, 83% of lesbians, gay, bisexuals, queer, reported having gone through ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So you can imagine if this is something that they have lived with and they have grown with it into adulthood. What happens when now they are supposed to be interacting with the opposite sex? And yet this is a kind of trauma that they are still carrying them. So you find that it tends to affect them. However, there are also studies that are saying that, the causal relationship between the association of sexual orientation and child abuse may be bidirectional, meaning that I could have been abused as a child, so I have a negative attitude towards the gender that abused me, so I tend to identify with the opposite sex. But there are also those who are not abused, but they still, identify with LGBTQ. Then we also have attachment styles. So we have 3 types of attachment. We have a secure attachment. Those who were brought up in a family where the secure attachment had caregivers who responded positively to them, who attended to their needs. If it was breastfeeding, you were breastfed well. If it was being taken care of, you were taken care of well. So you develop what we call a secure attachment. But then we have 2 other types of attachment, avoidant and anxious ambivalent. If a child learns to perceive their caregiver as emotionally distant or physically unavailable, then they may develop avoidant attachment style. So such children are less likely to rely on, or maybe they distance themselves from their caregiver. So these are people who grow up, with blunt emotions. Have you ever seen those people who, even if you're hugging them, they just stand like a tree? Yeah? It's because of how we were not brought up in a family where people hug each other, where people tell you I love you, people tell you, So emotionally they grew up to become blunt. Yeah? So that's avoidant. Then you have anxious, ambivalent. These are children who see their caregivers as unpredictable. Maybe your father promised you that on Sunday I'll take you somewhere as a child. You wait for him on Sunday, he doesn't come. Then he comes and tells you, I'll buy for you a toy. If you become number one, what do? You become number one, and the toy doesn't come, right? So this is a parent who is unpredictable. Yeah? Your mother tells you, promises you something, and they don't do it. So these are parents who are very unpredictable. So as a child, you grow up with this kind of feeling, such that even if someone is promising you something, you can't trust them, right? Because of how you've been brought up. So anxious, ambivalent children tend to cling to people who show them, emotions that they have been looking for. So for example, if I'm looking for a partner, I didn't have a father figure. If my partner is able to fill the gap that my father could not fill, then I will cling to this partner, to this man, yeah, or this partner. Let me just use the word partner. Because I'm expecting my partner to fill in the gaps that I missed growing up as a child. So sometimes the person filling this gap for you is a person of the same sex. So what do you do? And you've lived in a life that has been unpredictable. Isn't it normal to be, to be close to this person? Is that normal? It's normal, right? Because you've grown up in a family where people are emotionally distant, parents are unpredictable. But then you find friendship in someone who is there for you. And it starts with friendship. So this friend can be someone of the same sex. So you become so close, such that by the time maybe this person is introducing you to his or her kind of sexual orientation, you will not be able to say no. Actually, you'll find yourself in it. Why? Because this is where you feel loved, this is where you feel cared for, this is someone who understands you. And it is worse off if you have tried other relationships and you've been heartbroken. You will always go back to this person. And it's all because of the attachment style that you went through. So basically, attachment theory says that we need to form close bonds to keep us safe and protected as infants. And this gives us evolutionary advantage. And this is what we carry on all the way to adulthood. So based on how your parents or your caregivers loved and cared for you, it created a picture, a mental image that you still carry to date. If I tell all of you to close your eyes and just picture your childhood, and I look at your facial expressions, I'll be able to tell that this one had a good childhood and this one had a bad childhood. Why would I be able to tell that? How would I tell that? Huh? Your facial expression, because that person who went through secure attachment will have his or her eyes closed and I'll see a smile. Yeah? Someone relaxed. But that person who had a terrible childhood, what do you see from the facial expression? Yeah? The facial expression will tell a lot, can give a whole story. right? Because of what you're picturing, what you're remembering. Right? So caregivers play a very important role in how we turn out the choices we make as adults. So the kind of care we get, it forms what we call an internal working model. And this is what continues throughout life. And that's why some people will tell you, don't even ask me about my father. Don't even ask me about my mother. I don't even want to talk about my relatives. Yeah? But there's that one who, anytime family members are brought up, they would light up and they want to talk about the family members based on how they were brought up. So those who are insecurely attached may avoid the stress of exploring and developing their identity. And for the youth, the stage of identity is a very important stage. If you look at the human developmental stages, the adolescent stage, where now we develop an identity, that is the most crucial stage in a person's life. Who am I? Who are you? If I ask you, who are you? So ask yourself that question with your name. Yeah? Who am I? I want to hear you asking yourself, who is? Now your name. Who is? Who is? Who is Sister Florence? Ask yourself that question. Do you know who you are? Yeah? How would you describe yourself? How would you describe your life? Yeah? If you're able to confidently describe your life, describe yourself, describe what you like, what you don't like, you know yourself, then it means that during the navigation of the human developmental stages, you are able to pass the stage of gender identity in a very secure manner. But maybe because of a few issues here and there, from peer pressure, dysfunctional families, maybe issues of substance use, that is a stage that you did not navigate very well, and the gender identity has become a crisis in your life to date. So, with the youth, gender identity is very, very important. And why is it important? Because that is the time that you get to know yourself, you get to understand yourself. That is why you find that sometimes people even change careers, yeah, in their 30s, in their 40s. Why are you changing your career in your 30s or 40s? Yeah? Because it is expected that all of us should be able to understand and know ourselves. So, someone who doesn't know himself or herself, this is someone who is very vulnerable and becomes very prone to be persuaded by peer pressure. So if there's an organization that has come up and wants to give you a good life, actually the LGBTQIA plus, most of them lead a very good life because they get sponsors. They get people who are able to fund them to live a very, very lavish life. So if you do not have a very sound gender identity, which you should have formed in your adolescent stage, it means that when that kind of peer pressure comes, it's very easy for you to move to the other side because we all want a good life. And also with adolescents, it's very, experimentation is the order of the day. The consequences will come later. Yeah? It's always just the thrill of what, if I do this, what will happen. So some of them will also go through it because of the experimentation. So family and peer pressure. It starts with the parenting style. The parenting style has to do with attachment. How were you attached growing up in your childhood? Did you have secure attachment or was it insecure? Did you have authoritative or laissez-faire kind of parents? So teenagers are very responsive to peer influence, and they listen to their peers more than they listen to other figures of authority. And this is because at that point their brains undergo changes to make them highly attuned to social situations. How many times do you see people posting on social media very personal things that they're not supposed to even post? It is because it's the spur of the moment. And if you look at the age group that is doing that, they are the adolescents all the way to the youthful adults. So negative peer pressure is often related to influencing things like bullying behaviors, drinking alcohol, negative body image. Again, the question, who am I? When you look at yourself, what do you like about yourself? Do you like your hair? Do you like your teeth? Do you like your nose? Yeah? Do you like your eyes? Then we move downwards, yeah, all the way to your toes. Mhm. So that forms your body image. What do you like about yourself? Now, that what you don't like about yourself, is there anything you can do about it? Is it yes? Is it no? So you find that this age group, the youth, they can be easily influenced, when it comes to peer pressure, based on how they feel about themselves. And sometimes that is what gets them into trouble. So the effects of such behaviors can tend to decrease self-confidence. And that is why sometimes you find someone dressing in clothes that cover everywhere, even the fingers, you cannot see the nails. There's a hoodie, and it's tied, and the baggy clothes, and you cannot see any part of the body. Yeah. Because the self-confidence has been eroded. So do you like yourself? Who are you? Who am I? The question. What is your self-worth? There are many times you hear people saying, this world is not worth living. I feel hopeless. I feel worthless. Those are very serious terminologies. If you ever hear someone saying those are words that are not supposed to be taken lightly. And for us mental health care workers, we consider that a crisis. We consider it a symptom of suicidal ideation. So sometimes also this could lead to feeling, there are many times where I have gone to the office and I find parents waiting and they tell me, Daktari, you have to, and I want to use the term as they used it, degay this child. Yeah? How do you degay someone? Will you leave this child with you? A Form 2 student expelled from school because has been found, engaging in homosexual activities. We want you to deal with this one. We will pay whatever the amount. By the time you come in the evening, we want to find a changed person. So you ask yourself, will I be able to do that in the few hours that are here? This is something that this person has had maybe some time. Will I be able to do it? And we look at how if you ever encounter such people, how we are supposed to handle them. So those are some of the dilemmas that we face. And also, when they rebel, they will do things to annoy the parents. Some will tell you that, I just decided to do this to annoy my parents. Yeah? But in the process of annoying them, I found myself enjoying it. So I think I will stick here. Yeah? Others will want to tell you that, help me, I don't want it anymore. I was just rebelling to annoy my father or my mother. So mental status, studies that have been done indicate that, gay men reported significantly higher rates of mood and anxiety disorders than straight men. Why is this? Because if this is someone who went through ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, there is some trauma that they are carrying. Then, when it comes to body self-image, there is also that lack of self-confidence that they are carrying. Then now, their sexual orientation, they are hiding it because it's not acceptable. So that is again something that they are carrying. So most of them are always found to have a lot of mental health conditions like, anxiety and mood disorders. And they experience adverse mental health outcomes, which not only include the mood disorders, but sometimes they also engage in a lot of substance use, and some of them even become suicidal as a result. They also face additional barriers to accessing mental health treatment, adverse outcomes like, family rejection. Maybe my brother has come out to say that, I'm gay. Of course, the way we handle him will be different, so we feel rejected. And even, even receiving treatment sometimes, is normally a challenge for them. So what are some of the mental health issues that these individuals experience? Anxiety or panic attacks. There was a time I was told that one of my clients was having a panic attack on Bunyala roundabout. He just couldn't breathe, he felt like he was dying, he was choking, and he stopped the car in the middle of the roundabout. So he was going through a panic attack. Most of them go through depression, PTSD, eating disorders, because those who are in these gay relationships, particularly the men who act as the women in the relationship, they must always maintain a certain lean figure. So you find that they develop a lot of eating disorders. Yeah. Substance abuse is also another one. Maybe this is someone that is sponsoring this person financially. This person is not able to leave that relationship because of the financial support. So they end up sticking into such a relationship, but they don't like it. So what do? They cope by drinking. They cope by using substances. There are those who also engage in self-harm. We've had cases of people cutting their wrists, people just self-harming themselves because they don't know what to do. And when they self-harm, they say that, I feel a sense of, I feel like I need to punish myself for what I'm doing because I know that what I'm doing is not right. Then of course also suicidal tendencies. So what is our role when we encounter such people? The most important thing is active listening. We cannot put a sign on the door that says that people now to identify themselves. And they have come out to say that, I was actually identifying as LGBTQ because of what I was going through, the kind of emotional turmoil I was going through. We also administer psychological tests because some of them have gone through trauma, others are depressed. We are able to administer tests, be able to identify the level of depression. If it is mild or moderate, then we can treat it with therapy. If it is severe, then we have to work with a psychiatrist to be able to prescribe medication. Then, of course, after the test, develop a treatment plan for them or even referral if need be. So now, for you as service providers, these are people that you'll encounter. Yeah? What is the first thing that you should do? Because if you shun them, we will not be able to help them understand the biological perspective and the psychological perspective, and even the church response. So we cannot throw them out. Is that so? These are people among us. So how do we deal with them when we encounter them? It could be your friend, your roommate. It could be someone very close to you. The most important thing is to call yourself for a meeting. Why are you calling yourself for a meeting? Because you want to be able to put aside first and foremost the values that you hold dear, the beliefs, so that you can be able to listen to this person objectively. That is the only way you can be able to help them. Then number two, active listening and empathy. Don't sympathize. If you sympathize, you won't be helping. Try to empathize with them. Then for such people, presence of support, and here family can be any family, their own biological family or the family that is here. When you're here with them, you're the one spending a lot of time with them, you're the family. So that support is very, very important. And then, of course, the community-based support, where people feel that I'm suffering with this, I'm dealing with, there's this thing that I'm carrying and I'm dealing with it. So is there community support for people who are like that in this community? Who can they turn to? Understanding appropriate and positive feedback that is provided during the coming out. Coming out process is when this person comes and discloses that, John, my friend, I'm dealing with this. Yeah. I really feel attracted to people of the same sex. I need help. Yeah. Then self-care is also important, because if your service providers, if you're dealing with such cases day in, day out, at some point you suffer from what we call burnout. So take care of yourself as well, so that you are able now to go back and help such people. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are not strangers. So these are just some of the interventions that are normally given. Expressive writing. That person can be able to write about how they feel. They can be able to write about the emotions that they experience, basically journaling. And through that, you may find that they're even writing about the kind of traumas that they went through, childhood traumas, the relationship stress that they are going through, in decisions, certain uncertainties that they have about the decisions they have made. So expressive writing, that is something that even for you, you can be able to do as an intervention. Cognitive behavior therapy, this is where we look at their thoughts, their feelings, and how it brings about the behaviors that they're exhibiting. And then most of the time we also call families, and we are able to do parent and family-based psychoeducation sessions. Because if these people are rejected by the family, then even when they want to come out, they are not able to because of that rejection. So that is why psychoeducation of the family. So if you have an opportunity to meet their family members, psychoeducate them, so that they can be able to know that, yes, this is our loved one, we need to support our loved one. The backlashes will only lead to rebellion and more negative emotions. Non-effective treatment methods, as I finish, is always what we call conversion therapy, which is the same, similar to what I was telling you about these parents who came and told me that they want, by the time it's evening, I should have, in quotes, beguiled their child. Yeah. So conversion therapy focuses on altering homosexual or transgender individuals into heterosexuals. Yeah. There are things that you can change gradually through education. You cannot bring someone to me for treatment, and at the end of the day you accept that from today you have been converted. It's a process. That's what I'm trying to say. It is a process. And the process only begins if we have the knowledge, and we are using the knowledge to be able to help those that, that require our help. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me, and know that only a life lived in service to others is worth living. So don't sit on the knowledge that you have acquired today. Make sure that you use that knowledge for yourself and also to be able to help others. So thank you very much for listening to me.
So thank you so much, Dr. Jackie. Thank you so much for your integrated presentation. Dear people, let's again congratulate her and thank her with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Dr. Jackie, that was so integrated, and we are in a shock. And actually, when this is going to be talked about,
We got into shock, all of us. And that is why this college saw it good that we come this afternoon and look into our shock. I believe that at the end of this session, we are going to reduce, if not to eliminate completely, our shock. Dear parents, Dr. Jackie has tackled us nicely. The third attachment, a model that she mentioned, directly comes from us. We have become so unpredictable that the youth who are our children have gotten a place to lean on at the point of their needs. Dr. Jackie has called all of us to responsible parenting. This does not stop at family level. Religious men and women here gathered. The formation structures also has something out of this. If it doesn't come from the formation team that we have in our formation houses, definitely you and I in formation will look for that consolation somewhere else. Are we together? There's a question Dr. Jackie asked here, and I think people forgot their names. The question of who is. Whatever you don't just remember your name if you forgot. Because I think you have to ask yourself that question. Have you remembered your names? Have you remembered your names? So, we are all asking together. My name is Myers. Mine will come out loudly because I'm using the microphone. Make sure that you try as much as possible to make yours come out loudly. The person next to you will not get what you are saying because all of us are talking. Are we together? So, who is Myers? Let us all ask together. Who is Myers? Let us all ask. Don't call my name. You have your own names. My name is Myers. So you call your own name. So let's all ask together. Who is Myers? Again, who is? Again, I can get some people's names because we cannot loud enough. So let's do it again. Together, who is? Thank you so much. Now the answer, don't give us. Get it on your own. Dear people, together here, I ask us to take our programs and mark our progress. We have listened to Dr. Ngare Wahome. And just before this moment, we have listened to Dr. Jackie Anundo. If you think you don't agree with me, please remain seated. If you don't agree with me, please remain seated. And if this is the case what I see in front of me, my dear friends, as we stand there, we have no any other option but to launch a campaign. And this campaign that we launch is in accordance with what Dr. Wahome presented to us in the beginning. If in any case we don't play that game over here, and if I say if any case, we say we don't play that game over here. If any case, that is not loud enough. If any case, if any case, we don't play that game over here. Now I ask the brothers who are ready to give us refreshments at this moment. Some sweet will be coming around. We get some water that we may swallow and turn around. Just shake the hand of the person next to you, don't get out. Then I introduce the next speaker at the break is over. Please don't go out. We remain shaking hands. You can always tell the person next to you that don't play that game over here. If you can't pick anyone next to you, you can always ask yourself who inspires in this case. Just as the president was standing somewhere and will be coming out, I don't want to see anyone seated at this time because this is our time to pray.
The brothers responsible kindly stand please come to the front. The people sitting in the front rows are not taken care of. You can always help with the distributions that we do for the pastor, please. The brothers responsible, please come forward that we help the people just around us here. But all move together as a family. But still, at the end of the day, we don't play that game over here. We don't play that game over here.
We don't play that game over here. That game over here. Oh, I don't know. That's why we invited him there. It's not for a big Yes, it's something
Dear brothers and sisters, dear brothers and sisters, may I need your attention, please. Please, may I need your attention. I ask all of us that we may settle down. Allow me to ask you to take your seats that we proceed to the next half of this program. The time for shaking hands is over. We are getting back to business. We are getting back to what the church is going to tell us about all this that we're talking about this afternoon. Let us kindly settle down that we may proceed to the next phase of this program, please. The first one by the door, kindly come in and take your seats. The break is going to be inside the hall so that we may be able to catch up with the time stipulated in our program today. Thank you for responding. Thank you so much. Thank you for accepting to settle down as soon as possible, that we may proceed with this program this afternoon. As we enter this second phase of the program of today, allow me to draw your attention one thing that is common in this college about our learning is that the scripture passage where Jesus asked his disciples when he was in Caesarea Philippi was that, whom do people say that I am? Then some responded, some say you are Elijah, or what do people call Elijah here? Some say you are Jeremiah. Some say that you are one of the holy prophets. Some say that you are John the Baptist who has come. Then at the end of that story, Jesus asks, then who do you say that I am? For the Joseph, we have heard what the Medics say about our being of today. The Medics say that it is medically unethical. We have heard what the psychologists have to say about it, and represented by Dr. Jackie, they say that it is a problem with identity and security. Now, you are a national agent. What do you say? As one of the ones who come to the program, allow me to give a short profile of him that may continue with this program. Reverend Dr. Joseph Myers Eguzobi is a Nigerian-American Catholic priest of the Catholic Diocese of Oyo, Nigeria. He holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and a master's degree in theology and divinity from the Urban University, Rome. He also holds a master's degree in counseling and development from the Urban University, Beaumont, Texas, in the USA. Father Joseph holds a doctorate degree in addictive disorders from Wayne Institute, Oregon, in USA. Father Pius holds a doctorate degree in counseling psychology from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Kenya, and a doctorate candidate in theology in the South African Theological Seminary, South Africa. He is currently the director of the Psycho-Spiritual Institute of Luke's Terra Leadership Foundation in Kenya. He is also a psycho-spiritual therapist, a certified addiction specialist. He is a purist, a professional mediator, a poet, and author of over 30 books. He has a passion for educating the youth and adults on realities of life. Dear people, let us put our hands together and welcome Reverend Father Joseph Myers to come and reflect with us on the Bishop Church. Welcome.
God is good, and all the time. Yeah. Just for about a few days now, I've been receiving calls because, of course, I posted this program to many of my contacts, and I've been having my friends telling me, Father, be careful. And you know what that means, because to talk about what is the church saying. So they are saying, Father, be careful. Well, I cannot tell the Bosco student that I'm no longer coming. And just before I came here today, I was in a class, and a bishop visited from Malawi, and actually had to share something about LGBTQ because he was just coming from home, from the synod. So we asked him also, what is the position of the church? Of course, he schooled us about what it was all about, of course, how we need to react or deal with the situation. And then we came to say, possibly the church is confused. When we're talking about the church being confused, don't get it wrong, it's because what we are talking about today is not something outside. That's the mistake we made. It's not something outside. It's not something you have to fight, because there's nobody to fight. Who makes the church? We are here. So if I begin with that, what do you say? That's a challenge. The church may be divided into two: the conservatives
and that's why we can talk about the hormonal issues and talk about it. And in every family there is a doctrine, the problem child. Just like the devil was the problem. To say what the church said is just to enact again what I've been saying in this. I know many of my friends are watching me and they say, be careful. I'm trying to. I want to begin by Father John Hardy. I stumbled on this material. He was ordained on June 3rd, and of course, he's been dealing with the issue of homosexuality. He died recently, not quite long. And one of his experiences he shared, and I'm going to read it forward. During the November 1970 workshop of homosexuality, 1970, you see, on homosexuality and religion, held at the Catholic University, the Catholic was presented to me. The question was presented to me whether I would give absolution in a confessional to a homosexual who had every intention of remaining a homosexual liaison, and what is sometimes called a homosexual marriage. The interrogator added that this homosexual
feel that he was going wrong in such an overt practice of homosexuality because he knew of no other way to have a stable human friendship and did not want to lapse into the promiscuous kind of life. So characteristics of many homosexuals. Said I replied, Father, reply, not me, that in conscience I could not give absolution to this individual unless he agreed to give up his practice, because I regarded such a way of living as a serious violation of the Christian norms of sexual conduct. To this reply, it was objected that I had overlooked the fact that the individual did not regard his behavior as contrary to the law of God. Is the author's debate today. And of course, it's a condition regarded as a mental disorder or a psychiatric illness by psychiatrists, physicians, scientists, and the public before. So I followed the story of DSM. From the beginning, it was regarded that way until the DSM-3, where they began to change terminology. And today, we have DSM-5 that is still talking about that. And of course, whatever is called sane or whatever it is, today, we are trying to fight for it. You have to let it stay. It must be here. And yet, even in terms of research, there's no consensus. Biologically, there's no consensus. Psychologically, they are fighting. And of course, religiously, why are we here? So until the 19th century, the discussion about homosexuality were prominent in the spheres of religion with regard to it as immoral. Please don't take that away. That's what they will call it until recently. Today, the church as well as many people are either confused in disbelief or changing their worldview or position about homosexuality. But the truth is that is with us and is being with us forever. It can be said without mixing words that the African society does not encourage homosexuality relationship. It is not to mean that there is no such behavior among Africans. According to these authors, Sanford and Reddy, it is uncommon to find high caliber social science or humanities study on same-sex sexuality in Africa. This does not also mean that it is not there. I remember as a child, this is the way my culture would deal with it. I like wearing female dress. Don't laugh. And when you wear it, you know what the elders will tell you? What are you doing? If you let a dog bat you, you will turn to a woman without an opening. So I said nothing. So, is there. Yet African nations appear to have been the least receptive of same-sex sexuality is done. I can talk from my head. So, of course, we don't accept that. But again, it is not because it is not there. When we look at the way the world is going, there's a lot of challenges and a lot of blaming on the church today that sometimes if you appear to be a priest or religious somewhere, somebody can deny you certain favor because you are standing as a priest or religion. So the question that I was saying before is, what do we say as the church? Is a situation and we have to deal with it. The church first is guided by two principles: the scripture and the tradition. So if we are going to look at what the church is going to say, we only can go back to say, what is the scripture saying? And of course, what in the Bible. If you still read Leviticus, you'll find it there. If you read Deuteronomy, you'll find it there. But Jesus said, 1. Let he who has not sinned be the first one to cast the first stone. Remember, I said it's like one of those things. And the scripture tells us one by one, they dropped their stones and left. Then Jesus asked, has anyone condemned you? He said, no, sir. He said, neither do I condemn you. But go and sin no more. I want you to mark that, please. Jesus was not affirming the sin of the woman. Jesus was looking at this daughter as a daughter of God, made in the image and likeness of God, who will probably still struggling with a lot of things that we do not see. Jesus showed what we call compassion. However, he condemned the act of sin. That's why we do say Jesus or God Jesus or God hates the sin but loves the sinner. Even that statement is not in the Bible, but that's where it's coming out from. Scripturally, that's what we can say. However, it is obvious and it's very clear that in the terms of the scriptures, sin is not condoned. Sin is not baptized. Sin is not encouraged. Sin is not accepted. What is our fathers? What are they in our fathers? What are they been saying? Our fathers have spoken so much. Continue now. Sorry. When it comes to what the church fathers have said, we can see for a fact, beginning from, let me just quote a few people, St. Justin, and I'm just going to exactly what she just said. Said, females, this woman is the lesbianism, see. And he said, and hermaphrodites, they are sexuals. He said, and those who commit unmentionable iniquities are found in every nation. And there are some who prostitute even their own children and wives. And some are openly mutilated. We have talked about that, Dr. For the purpose of, this was in the year AD 151. Well, so they refer these mysteries to the mother of the gods. For Basil the Great, he said, he who is guilty of unseemliness with male will be under discipline for the same time as, are you with me? As adulterers. For Constantius and Constance, they said, man marriage to man is punishable by death. These are Christian guides. And of course, for Theodosian, Theodosius actually, but they have a code, what they call Theodosian code. He said, all persons who have the shameful custom of condemning a man's body, acting the part of a woman, transgender one. He said, to the sufferance of alien sex shall expiate a crime of this kind in avenging flames in the sight of the people. It's a public disgrace and public punishment that was accustomed to that at that period. St. Augustine said, if all nations were to do such things, they would be held guilty of the same crime by law of God, which has not made men so that they should use one another this way. For Thomas Aquinas, so not all things to which a person might be inclined are natural inclination. Actually, some LGBTQ community were angry when the church used the same language, inclination. They said they could have said orientation. And by the time you begin to look at the word orientation, of course, you know, when you want to enter the program, say you want to do orientation. Is that what we use? Orientation program. Meaning it's a learning, isn't it? It sounded that way to me. You are being oriented into something, not that you were born that way. Anyway, Thomas Aquinas said it's an inclination, and he said they should not take it as natural. He said in this morally relevant sense, rather, only the inclination to the full and proper expression of the human nature and inclinations which align with that inclination are natural. Contrary inclinations are perversions of the natural in the sense that they do seek a good, but in a way destructive of good. Pope Paul the Sixth, and there's a part I remove here, was actually first accused of being an homosexual himself. But he responded, of course, by writing, and this is talking about a persona humana. He says, premarital and extramarital sex, and of course, homosexuality and masturbation are forbidden. Pope John Paul proclaims the intrinsic, in his letter, or in encyclica, Veritatis Splendor, proclaimed the intrinsic evil of the homosexual condition and rejected the view of some theologians who had begun to publicly question the basis upon which the church had condemned homosexuality as morally unacceptable. He said again, in another letter, in a letter to the Bishops' Conference of the US, he praised them for stating that homosexual activity, as distinguished from heterosexual orientation, is morally wrong. Instead of holding out false hopes for people, to homosexuals facing hard moral problems, they had upheld the true dignity, the true human dignity of those who look to Christ's church for the guidance which comes from the light of God's word. Pope Benedict also addressed the concern about homosexuality and gay marriage by denouncing the powerful political and cultural currents seeking to alter the legal definition of marriage. May I say at this point that what we are talking about, some people will call it an agenda. And I've been at different conferences where you see this coming out, and they're just a minority. But a powerful minority with political will, with economic buoyancy, and with strong, I was attending a class and we're talking, it's supposed to be human sexuality when I was on studies. And this man was lesbian. And all we talked about from the beginning of that class to the end of the session was about homosexuality, LGBT. And I kept asking, is this what we are supposed to be talking about? Because remember, education can be indoctrination. And the best way to do it is teaching people. And unfortunately, even as we listen to all of us today, your brain is shaking. unfortunately, consciously or unconsciously. So he said, the church's conscientious effort to resist the pressure calls for a reasoned defense of marriage as a natural institution consisting of a specific community of persons, essentially rooted in the complementarity of the sexes and oriented to procreation. Sexual differences cannot be dismissed as irrelevant to the definition of marriage. Doctor exercised that. I actually wanted to do an experiment to back up, because everything around you here, they are male and female. Sister, your veil and your head, male and female. It's true. You see, that's how I put my pointer, male, female. Everything fixes. This fits to there, male, female, this microphone, male, female. Everything around you. It's true. However, before I go to Francis, most of the pronouncement that is being blown up by the media, and we have to be careful, social media, were comments he made, maybe in an interview, or they just grabbed him somewhere and he just giving his view. I reflected so much about Pope Francis to see where I actually stand, because it's difficult to know where he stands. It's the truth. He's our church and he's our leader. However, I've looked at him from two perspectives. One perspective is very Christocentric. Very, very Christocentric. Looking at dignity of human person. Not using sexualism to actually cause disintegration of human person or human society. Another side, I look at him like also somebody who is trying to be careful, political correct. Another side, trying to look at him like somebody who like this statement, I don't want to be the judge. That statement was taken from Luke chapter 6. It's Christ's word, do not judge, so that by the very judgment you make, you will not be judged. Or when you take it in terms of St. Paul will say Christians are to judge the world. So when you begin to look at the two, that I say you don't know where it starts. However, he has said some things that need to be reflected on. He said, if a person is gay and this person seeks God and has a good will you say because you are gay, I will not give you what is due? You can think about it. He talks about opening door. If a woman who is a single mother had come to say, I want to have my child baptized, will you say because there's no father here, we're not going to baptize your child? Yet this woman refused to abort that baby. Say this child must live, and I will go through all the problems. Think about that. I won't say more than that. He said we must always consider the person. In life, God accompanies persons, and we must accompany them. Starting from their situation, it is necessary to accompany them with mercy. When that happens, the Holy Spirit inspires the Spirit to say the right thing. He says, the key is for the church to welcome, not exclude and show mercy, not condemnation, and to show mercy, not condemnation. This church with which we should be thinking is the home of all. Not all small chapel that can hold only a small group of selected people. We must not reduce the bosom of the universal church to a nest protecting our mediocrity. Think about that. That is what the Pope said. But the Catechism of the Catholic Church expressed some concerns that we are now reading. From the time of the Second Vatican Council until today, various authoritative documents of the Church, and especially the Code of Canon Law, very silent, and then the Catechism of the Catholic Church affirms the teaching of the Church on homosexuality, the Canon Law on the part of marriage, the Catholic Church address homosexuality. This is what it says. First, it tells us the difference between homosexual acts and homosexual tendencies. And please, we have to get it correctly. I am heterosexual. I have a heterosexual tendency. I see a woman, I like a woman. If I'm driving right now, I see a fine girl, I will look. It's a fact. It's a fact, but my looking does not mean I should stop. Does not mean even when I stop, I should carry. Even when I carry, should not take her to my house. Even if I take her to my house, should not take her to my bed. Even when I take her to my bed, because I'm a sexual human being. And my religiosity, my ordination will not remove my sexuality. I will. Are you with me? I have a tendency. All those processes I mentioned, they can become temptation. But if I now do it, if I do it, then it becomes a sin. Are you with me? So homosexual act is the sin. And as I said, scripturally it's a grave sin. And the church's tradition has always seen this as intrinsically immoral and contrary to the natural law. Say they should not be approved under any circumstances. I have not quoted, it's just an extract. But when it comes to homosexual tendencies, in some men and women are also objectively disordered and often this constitutes a temptation for those who experience them. Persons with homosexual tendencies are to be accepted as a person, respected as a person, and yet with what? Sensitivity, and not be discriminated. Is a human being made in the image and likeness of God. So, this is what the Catechism said, word for word. Not me. Homosexuality, homosexuality refers to relations between men and women who experience an exclusive or predominantly sexual attraction towards persons of the same sex. It has taken a great variety of forms through the centuries and in different cultures. I've said that at the beginning. Its psychological genesis remains largely unexplained, doctoral, and basing itself on sacred scripture, which present homosexual acts as an act of grave depravity. Tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. They are contrary to the natural law. They close the sexual acts to the gift of life. They do not proceed from the justice can be approved. It goes ahead on 23:58. The number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, constitutes for most of them a trial, because a lot of people struggle with it. So they must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. These persons are called to fulfill God's will in their lives, and if they are Christians, to unite to the sacrifice of the Lord's cross the difficulties they may encounter from this their condition. 23:59 says homosexual persons are called to chastity, like you and I are called to chastity. Like a married person is called to chastity. By the virtues of self-mastery that teach them inner freedom, at times by the support of disinterested friendship, by prayer and sacramental grace, they can and should gradually and resolutely approach Christian perfection. Code of Canon Law, I said, talks about marriage. I don't have to go into that. And there are some other documents that I've actually spoken. So before this synod that we're having, of course, the issue of homosexuality was coming back and forth, and the church is not making any pronouncement. So what do you want to hear from the church? Nothing. However, before that time, it is a fact that homosexual act, according to the church, is a sin like any other sin. That homosexual tendencies is not a sin. I've just read about that. That deep-seated homosexual tendencies in some men and women are also objectively disordered. And of course, persons with deep-seated homosexual tendencies should not be admitted into holy orders. Hello? And of course, homosexual persons should be respected and be treated with dignity. Now, when we have the synod, we have not heard, but there are still things coming out that still talking also about what I've just said. My time is over. But what I want to conclude with is that when you talk about the church again, it is you and I. And the church is not the building, we know that. This part is within us. The homosexual person is our family member. They have said that too. Our church members, members of our Judea, and guess what? Members of our religious congregations are what still members of the hierarchy. They are there. So what are you fighting? We don't know. So where my worries, where the African church needs to come in is here. Number one, for any Christian, no, let me talk for Catholics. For any Catholic to say what is regarded a sin in the scriptures is no longer a sin, is questionable by all standards. For any Catholic to say what the church has been talking about is no longer this age, we're in another age, you know what I mean? Then there's a problem with that. Because if our faith are surrounded by that. Now to Africa. I want to say, please, if you are not African from Europe or America, I'm also an American by So don't be offended. Is that Africans have long lost their identity. So much as the church in Africa has no identity. They came and told us, don't marry too many wives. One wife, one woman. We agree. We agree. In the process of agreement, because we want to stick with the church, what happens? Many families are shattered. Many families are still hurting because the man has to choose out of the plenty wives. Now, we are okay with that. We now talk about one man, one woman. And they say, no, man and man. What should we do? my young people, is more for you. Not just even for religious, because I don't want to say more things here. Let me just keep it close that way. Let me talk to the young people. You see, your loss of identity, like Doctor was saying, starts from when, a lot of things that have happened in family can happen, but I don't blame parents. I'm a theorist, I told you, I'm a theory called child response style. I believe that not only parents actually determine what a child does. Doctor, I want to go into a profession. I can prove to you that from the womb, the child decides a lot of things. Because in the womb, the child has no control of the parents. Is the child moving around and navigating itself inside that womb? No, it's true. So the child is born knowledgeable of what is in the womb, but maybe little knowledge about what is in our world. Even though that child begins to relate with our world from inside the womb, recognizes the voice of the mother and the father. I can prove it if you want us. So that is, and when that child is growing, I'm looking for a child. I can give you an example. Call the child, come and the father say, I'm not coming. The child can say, I'm not coming. The child has a will. You want to give the food, say, I don't want. It has a will. And the same way they respond to our behavior. The number one mistake parents will make is to think you are the one shaping your children. I'll give you an example. You can look at your family. How many children do you have in your family? Are your children, are these children trained by the same parents? Yes, most likely. Parents, even when they're both parents. Do you all behave the same way? Why not? If you are trained by the same parents, and it's the parent that is shaping you, why are you not responding the same way? We're all Catholics, are we not? The same Bible, the same tradition. Do we believe the same thing? Why not? You have the will. And that's why on the last day, every person will answer for himself or herself. Your family won't stand for you. You won't stand for your family. Neither will your church stand for you. You will be the one to respond to the call of God because it is your responsibility. Our parents are to give us what they need to give us, but it's for us to still take whether we take. So I have in the theory the adherers, the rejectors, the nonchalants, and the falsers. I'm not going to that. So children, what am I saying? Our youth, what am I saying is that please make right choices. You see, the music you listen to, sometimes you have no idea the message in the music. You only have to go. Hey, man. No, it's true. I'm a composer. And I can tell you, you can put your ideology in your music. And people will be singing your ideology. And they will not know exactly what they are singing. You have to pay attention to the lyrics of the music before you get crazy with those things. Even for us which are religious, many of us stand this inside our room. Yeah, we do. We are humans too. But please listen. When you are playing on the social media, I have, you are giving an example. I also have a family friend who actually transgender. The father was devastated. And the boy wanted to commit suicide, called me. I have to call agents in Texas to please respond to it. Because the life you are seeing is looking like twinkling little star. But that's not all what life is. And you are at the stage in your life where when you make that mistake, your future is on the plane. The music, the social media, be careful. And you want to be, what is in vogue. It's not everything that is good that is profitable. It's not everything that looks like a gold that is actually useful. That's what I can say to you. So what is the church saying? We all can decide. Let me end with permit me to end with this. Where am I? So, don't lose your cultural heritage, yeah? And of course, avoid every occasion of sin. Father John Hardy John Harvey says again to the, he was asked a question that I did not complete, so I'm completing it. He says, I responded to the objection with further observation. If this person really believed that his conduct was not sinful, he had no solid reason to present it in the confession. So the fact of presentation of his homosexual actions indicates that he expects the confessor to respond with approval or disapproval. Granting, however, for the sake of discussion, that a given individual really had been in good faith about the serious gravity of this matter until the time of his confession, he has an obligation to accept the advice of the confessor on the immorality of his past conduct in this issue, and to take whatever steps are necessary to free himself from such a homosexual union. It is theoretically possible that this individual has not been aware of the immorality of his conduct before confession, but such ignorance does not free him from the obligation of following what has been the common teaching of moralists on the subject. However empathetic the confessor may be on the subjective difficulties of the homosexual penitent, he is not free to give approval for the continuation of the homosexual liaison. Since he exercises the power of forgiving and retaining sins in the name of the church, he is bound to follow solid moral teachings, both in instructing the penitent and demanding that the penitent change his way of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Joey Z, for the presentation, giving us the church response to the issue that we are dealing with today. To do justice to the presentation, it's not good to comment. I want to comment. But one thing that can maybe challenge one of us, it also struck me the most, is that we are dealing with something that is not outside. It's within the church, it's within our communities. Yeah, so how do we go about it? And he has helped us how we can respond in accordance with the church. Being in the Archdiocese of Nairobi, allow me also to acknowledge the presence of Father Victor Butia, the youth coordinator for the Archdiocese of Nairobi. Yeah. At this juncture, I would like to invite Sister Dr. Florence Kabala. She's going to lead us in the panel discussions. May we put our hands together, first of all, for Doctor. We did, yeah? For Doctor for the presentation. And then welcome Reverend Sister Dr. Florence. Most welcome.
May the Spirit of the Lord come down. Amen. May the Spirit of the Lord come down as we pray. May the Spirit of the Lord God from heaven come down. May the Spirit of the Lord. I think it is just honorable to give thanks one more time for our able and professional panelists for taking us through this so-called agenda in theology, which we are starting with. I'm very much grateful to Dr. Ome, Dr. Jockey, and of course, Reverend Dr. Joseph. They've done justice to the topic and I'm very pleased. Now I humbly request you, it is a moment of question time and I will also do justice. I will give opportunity to at least the young people who are here. I give you first priority. I give opportunity to the reverend sisters who are here. I give opportunity to the priests who are here. And I give opportunity to any other person, a parent who are here, to ask questions to our able experts. Kindly, with humility, I invite Dr. Home kindly to climb to the podium so that we can have a Q&A time. And those who cannot ask their question because they are afraid or they feel that they will be victimized by somebody, you can write them without giving your names. You'll be able to read them as well. And also, I humbly request Dr. Jackie kindly come to the podium upstairs, and even Dr. Joseph come up. We are the church, and we are going to dialogue as a church, as a people of God. Thank you very much. Let me open with a question for our panelists who are ready to answer. But my first question is basically for Dr. Ogome and of course Dr. Jackie. And also I give opportunity to dialogue with each other. I'm sure there are issues in which there were areas in which one need to clarify. You are free to do so. At one point, Dr. Jackie mentioned LGBTQI, Q+, and most of the time we referred to LGBTQR+. I would like you to confirm to us, Dr. Home, is intersex part of this group? Is homosexuality or LGBTQR part of identity, life, or is it that something that, as we talk about, a matter of free will, that what I was talking about? And then my second question to the father, the free will that we are born with, can it be shaped in terms of informed so that it makes the right choices? Can it also be influenced to make wrong choices? Let us start this debate, and then as the questions are coming up, we will be able to address all of them.
Thank you very much, Sister Dr. Kabala. The intersex, the persons living with the disorder that we call intersex, are not part of the LGBTQ community or person, because theirs is not a choice, it's a developmental disorder. They may have challenges accepting their sex because they may grow up thinking they are one, and then the secondary sexual characteristics come, a different one shows up, but it is not a choice. So the two are separate, but the reason why the proponents of the gender ideology are interested in them is because if the child is brought up as a girl, and during adolescence, the secondary sexual characteristics that show up are those who have male, then we must help this child change their ID documents from a girl to a boy. And that window allows the transgender ideology a legal way of allowing one who was born to be male and claims to be female to also have an opening where they can change their sex by law. So that's the only reason why they brought into that mix. There is no gene that has ever been found about homosexuality, but stress and other factors, I think the judge here will explain, can change the way the brain responds to stimulus, and that can affect the outcome of an alert. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Just to reiterate, yes, the intersex being enjoined the LGBTQ is basically to help push the agenda, because for the intersex, you can say it's a medical issue, and therefore if they enjoin the LGBTQ, then it gives them the muscle to be able to push across the agenda. That is why nowadays they have added the I, the acronym LGBTQI, then the A, and then plus. Psychological issues the way people deal with psychological issues tend to determine how one behaves, and that is why during the interventions, we look at the cognitive part, we look at the emotional part, because how you think determines how you feel. If you like someone, your feelings towards that person will be more on the positive side. And the negative, and if you don't like that person, then your feelings will tend to be on the negative side. So that is why during interventions, we deal with what we call CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. Because it's a triangle. What you think, how you feel determines your behavior. So when you're overwhelmed by stress, when you feel that you've been pushed to the wall, sometimes you find that there's no one to turn to. You're between a rock and a hard place. And then you find comfort in someone who is ready to listen to you, someone who is ready to be there for you. The kind of feelings that you have towards that person may change over a period of time, because that is the person who has accepted you. It is like the story of this person who went to a church and the phone rang. And this person was really castigated. Why is your phone ringing in church? The same person went to a bar in the evening and broke a glass. And he was so embarrassed and he wanted to clean it up. But the waitress came and said, no, don't clean it up. I'm so sorry. Did you hurt yourself? They cleaned it up and they gave him another glass. Where did he feel accepted? Very much for that powerful statement example. Karen, who will be influenced? And kindly, those who are having questions, be ready. 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that story. And I want to begin from that. I will first start with a story to back up what Dr. was saying. And this is a true life story and I said that story today in class, of a picky man who is accustomed to a particular reverend sister. The sister always called this picky man, can you help me? No. So because they are so used to each other, one day the picky man said, can I show you something, sister? And then he zipped down his jacket and bam, breast. And the sister said, wow. I said, yeah. And the zip up again. Leave him out with yeah. And then the sister went to the community and told the community member the experience. But there was whether a European or American sister was there, who was also a medical doctor. And he said, can I see the person? On seeing this particular person, they took him to the hospital, tested this person from here to here is a woman, here is a man, and here is a man. Yeah, I'm just backing up for them. Of course, they have to find a way, let's even long time ago, moved the person overseas and they actually conducted a surgery, and the person today is married with 3 kids. Now, that can happen. So first, that is not part of, should not be part of LGBT, but I think in support of what you were saying, they were trying to get more members to make the agenda. Now, what about the will? The will still go back to what Dr. Jacqueline was saying. You see, every child perceives. That's when a child is born, is looking like that. Don't think this child does not know what he's doing. I'm aware that you have seen the child sleeping and smiling. So you begin to ask, what is he smiling about? They have memories. Yeah, doctor was saying the other time, maybe the brain is not fully developed until when you're about 1 year. But I can tell you also that the brain is one of those first parts that started germinating before, and has the memory of everything that has ever happened in the brain. Nuclear system. Doctors disagree with me, that's fine. Well, so they have the memory. Now, when I'm talking about the will, is that as the child begins to perceive, is receiving the impulses, but is also responding. The response depends on a lot of factors. That's why you can see, I was watching a video clip yesterday, a child being beaten like crazy. But at the point, the child stopped crying and just responding, and they're still beating. Who determines that response? The beating, or certain factors that we are wired with as human person? That's why each and every one of us is unique. So it is okay. My child, in a study that I did about this, what did I find out? A good number of people are adherers, what I call adherers. People respond to things because they look at you as a model. So that's how we look at our parents. So we want to do what our parents want. But do you know that when I asked another question, would you like to train your children the way you were trained? Majority said no. When I asked some other people later, why were you saying no? They said because I was acting under fear. Now, the will is nature factor. There I cannot tell you in what particular way that one policy. It's also as you are making your, like you are making the world feel. A child is developing that as it's growing, and is using that worldview to navigate his own or her own life. Who determines, Doctor was talking about feeling, your thinking, your feeling? Yeah. Who's feeling? Parents feeling? No. That child's feeling. Parents thought? No. That child's thought. Can my thought be influenced? Yes. But I have to agree to that. I don't know whether I answer your question.
Thank you very much. We are now open to our participants. If there anybody with a question, if you have a question, kindly raise your hand. The microphone will be brought to you and you can be able to say your question.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one is more psychological and medical, and the other one is religiously connected. In the first place, there is this phenomenon of people detransition, like they were indoctrinated, so to speak, and now they would like to revert to their normal way of being, the way they were initially. Now, medically, for those individuals who have undergone bottom surgery or any other reconstructive or deconstructive surgery, is that possible? And what are the medical implications for such an individual? 2, the psychological aspect. Now that I transitioned, first of all, from, for example, male to female, and now I want to revert back to becoming a male. What are the psychological implications of such a transition? Then finally, I wanted to listen to why this movement identifies itself with the rainbow flag. We know from the Bible that the rainbow was actually among the first signs of the covenant that God made with man, that he will not destroy humanity again with water. I will destroy this madness that is coming, or they are acting as a way of mocking God, that whatever sign we put between us is not valid. So I'd like to clarify that. Thank you.
May we take another question? Thank you very much. Be brief. Yes, please.
Hello, my question is, we've been told that most of those engaged in the LGBTQ are there because of sexual childhood traumas. Most percentage. So what of the other percentage? What is their cause? My other question, intersex has been there for decades because it's a disorder. Now that it has joined the LGBTQ, what is the cause? What is the charge, or what is the medical section not doing for it to go past it? Because it has been there for years. Thank you.
One more from now for, yeah, please.
Good evening. First is just to appreciate the doctors for the wonderful input. And then I'm honored to have been here and thank the organizers. Two, maybe to Dr. Father, when you were talking about the response of Jesus in Matthew 19, Jesus responding to the issue about marriage. He says, might that also be taken sort of, and then when the apostles respond with the difficulty, he gives the only other option as the eunuchs, which also is not easy. And then now to the panel and maybe to the house, I've had two encounters with two ladies. As the Dr. Father said, it's something with us. One time, went for lunch, and the lady introduces somebody I've known all along as heterosexual. Says, meet Father, I brought you to this lunch to meet my boyfriend, another girl. And then much more recently, I'm called to visit somebody in a rehab, a girl, by the auntie, to talk about something else different. And as we have the conversation, the girl tells me, Father, don't be worried. I am not attracted to you. I deal with girls. Don't be worried, I'm not attracted to you. You can even come without your castle. And even sitting in this forum right now, I'm thinking, I think I would have rather have dealt with her being attracted to me than with the issue of her being lesbian. Because then the only response is swift flight. It would be okay, but now this happens as we have said in the issue. So my question is, in such a situation, in practice, for a seminarian, for a sister who meets somebody and say they are a lesbian, they are gay, or they are having those orientation issues, how would you respond, especially to one who is solidly claiming to be in it, in a way that you don't give silent approval, neither also do you condemn? What would be an appropriate response and follow-up?
Thank you very much. We take this to Dr. Mingard.
Okay. Now, the issue about transitioning, you realize that those terms have been used to cause even more confusion. You cannot transition from male to female. But because it has been regularized in some areas, governments and insurance companies are actually paying for a surgery of either removing breasts, removing genitals, putting false breasts, things like those. So for one who has already had surgery to remove their breasts, or who has cut off their male parts, it is irreversible. Those things cannot come back. they cannot be developed again. It is the end that they have to live with the trauma of that surgery being permanent. When you imagine that in some states in the US, they are allowing children as young as 10 years old to make such decisions, and they are actually taking them to theater without the permission of the parents because it is sexist. And some parents who have children with this condition hide them and pretend this is not happening, and we get to know about it very late. So it is important that we sensitize the community that there are children who are born with ambiguous genitalia. When you look at them, you cannot tell whether they are male or female, and that crisis will only last up to the time when their secondary sexual characteristics appear. And maybe just to touch a bit on practice, as Father has asked, when somebody comes and says, I am gay, or I am lesbian, I am homosexual, I think the first question you need to ask is, what do you mean? Because for us, as Christians, then we want to know, is it that you experience an inclination, or is it that you're already practicing this? And the next question would be, are you a Christian? Because then that would allow us to guide them appropriately. If it is the attraction, then it is not simple, and we will need to answer why by looking at the history of the person. If it is a practice, then they will need to understand firmly but lovingly that it is inconsistent with our faith, and we will need to discuss it a little more. So that's why I was really worried about the language. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says homosexuality is not sin, but goes to define that homosexuality is the attraction. But if a bishop were to stand and say homosexuality is not sin, you can imagine the kind of scandal it would cause. So it is better that we say being attracted to people of the same sex is an inclination that is not sinful, but that you are having same-sex relationship, that is grave sin. And when we follow a clear line of discussion, it is possible to solve the problems. The terms can be very simple.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okay, thank you for the questions. I want to start further. The process of socialization determines what we ascribe to, how we internalize thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And this stems from childhood, from the belief system, from the values we hold, from how we are socialized within our nuclear and extended families. So basically, when you hear something that the brain is not prepared to be able to internalize, it takes you back. Because ideally, you would also be shocked if the person was attracted to you. Yeah? But it's more shocking that this person is attracted to the same sex. Because your brain was not ready to be able to try to interpret that. Yeah? So you went through stages, and people go through stages of shock, denial, yeah? Then you move all the way up to acceptance. And because LGBTQ is something alien to us as far as our socialization is concerned, it takes a bit of time to be able to even found that someone that close to you would actually be leaning towards, LGBTQ. And as I said earlier, this is close to home now. It is not something we are reading about that it happens to other people. So it's all about the process of socialization. On the question of rainbow colors, rainbow has many colors. It's diverse. The diversity of the colors represents the acronym for LGBTQ. And what they want is to include everyone. And that's why remember I told you that as of Monday, I saw 47 terminologies of different sexual orientations. So they want to include everyone. Maybe by now they are 50, or they're even more than that. So it's all about diversity and inclusivity. They want to include everyone. There's even allosexual that I saw on Monday
where you're attracted to yourself. Like I can be attracted to myself. So it's all about inclusivity. Then I want to give a disclaimer. There is no gene factor that determines whether one will turn out to be homosexual. The biological and the psychological factors that we give are just ways of trying to explain possible causes that could lead to homosexuality. But there is no research out there that can point and say that actually those who are going through trauma end up becoming homosexuals. We even have those who are securely attached, very confident, high self-esteem, came from loving families, got everything. They went through life in a very proper way, navigated the milestones very well. But they still also ascribe to LGBTQ. So those are just causal factors that we are trying to use to explain possibilities. So I don't want you living here saying that because you suffered trauma, you're likely to, develop that, become, LGBTQ. We've had problems with those who are engaged in addiction tendencies. Because there's an addiction gene, people tend to use that a lot to explain, but after all, I'm drinking this much because, I'm genetically disposed. So all the factors that we gave, one of them SS, another one could be peer pressure, another one could be dysfunctionalities in families, another one could be, you could be having a mental disorder that could actually dispose you, to be vulnerable, because when you have a mental disorder, you are vulnerable. When you have a depressive episode, you are vulnerable. When you have schizophrenia, you are delusional, you are hallucinating. Yeah? Sometimes patients will come and tell you that I want you to finish with me very quickly because I'm actually going to reach the Pope for lunch. That is someone who is deluded. That is someone vulnerable who, if easily convinced, can actually, become gay because they can be deluded to think that that is the right thing because that is their reality. So all these are causal factors, not that one factor determines whether you turn out to be gay or not. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I want to differ a little bit. Yeah, we are debating. Maybe about the genetic, where we're always on the epigenetic. We're talking about the genes interaction with human behavior. Studies that are out there actually is not necessarily saying there's no gene at all, but there is no single gay gene. No single gay gene. Because of course, don't let me go into that. Let me just take that. I just want to say that you can search more, because I just did a reason about that. So we cannot say it's a genetic factor, we're not understanding. We cannot say there's a gay gene. There's a gene that makes you gay, but not that there is no factor about the name. Okay, so first, Father, about the question you asked, if well, I will not use myself as an example because I have different understanding from the field of psychology on how I should respond. But as a priest or religious, if my parishioner calls me and says, Father, meet my girlfriend. Okay. I may not want to cause immediate embarrassment, but later I will ask the person, are you still a Catholic? Yeah. Are you still a Catholic? If you say yes, I said, I don't think so. Because that's not what is the church teaching. I have to take you back to the teaching of the church and teaching of the scriptures. So if you are not aligning yourself with the teaching of the church and the teaching of the scriptures, then you are not a member of that church. So I can only approach that person from that perspective to know What do you believe? If you say, I don't believe what the Bible says, then you are not a Christian. That's where I will respond to that as a priest to my parishioner who is telling me I am gay. About the rainbow, it has been handled. I don't have to say anything about that. It's just diversity, inclusiveness. I don't think it actually has a particular religious connotation, even though I read an article that was trying to look at the spiritual meaning of each of the color, life, gray, peace, and also that color developed over time, like Dr. Jacqueline said. It was it is still increasing. The number and the colors are still, they are still adding more colors as they are adding that. About Matthew 19, yes, Father, I don't have to disagree with you. I agree with that. Because the one book one article I just wrote recently also, it was there that Jesus did not talk about the sexual factor, but Jesus did talk about marriage. And as far as Jesus is concerned, he's a man and a woman, QED. That's what I can say about that. Yeah.
One question, if there is just one question. At the time, one question only. Okay, yes.
Good evening. And thank you so much to the presenters. My name is Dr. I teach at Bosco University College. There's one thing that I would like to highlight. You talked about funding, but we looked at funding in a negative perspective. I do consultancy. I've been working with some of these particular LGBT groups in both Kakuma and in Nairobi. And what I've been doing basically is the aspect of financial literacy, monitoring and evaluation, and psychosocial support. Our doctor, I can say, I agree with you that not every person can really afford some of these particular services, especially seeking therapy or maybe counseling support. That's what I like to understand. My input is that I also look at funding from a positive perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ari. But I still want to say that there are still people who are funding the agenda. And there are still people who there are countries who are funding the agenda. There are also persons and organizations and companies who are actually funding people who are also inside as a way of enticement. And we have go online and find some updates about that. And I know we have been approached also if I can run a program to still do something of that nature, step back, So there's a different way they come also to get you involved, because if you get somebody from the inside, it takes more grounded. It's more grounded than when people are talking on the outside, from the inside. And that is why I was saying at the other time too, if money is not involved, then people will not be interested. But when money is involved, people are looking at the money, they don't care what you say you are. They just step to promote what you want to promote.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to take any more questions because of time. I just want to thank our panelists. Just one word. We have young people here, even amidst us, the people suffering from what we're talking about right now. Just something for them even to take home. One word from the panelists, and then we'll close it up.
If you're here, you're mamas, and you're experiencing any of these things, it is important to know that you are a child of God, and that God loves you, and that we are here to support you, not to condemn you. Seek someone you can speak to, and we'll be able to work with you.
The young ones here, just know that help is always available. Even if that what you don't consider as a problem, if it is something that you can talk to someone about just to be able to get insights about it, then will have solved a problem that would have otherwise been a major problem in the future. So what I would like to say is that let us all be able to identify what we will be going through. Let us be able to use the knowledge that we have gathered here and from what we'll be reading after this, to be able also to reach out to the people who are not in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say that if there is no law, there is no sin. So if the church says, and not just the church, the scripture says it is a sin, so there's no need to start fighting over what is sinful, not to be sinful. Again, the church recognizes the fact that people do have feelings, and we can have anything. We have talked, doctors have talked about that, Dr. Jack has talked about the psychological aspect that can actually make you want to have that inclination. But when you're also having, like a man, like I said, I can have a feeling towards a woman, but I know I cannot do anything with a woman. So I identify and acknowledge my feelings, but I know at the same time it's not supposed to go into the action. So when you are struggling with it also, please go to God in prayers. I know many people do pray, and they say, I've been praying. Keep praying. When there is faith, there's necessary need of a hope. Because when you take the hope out of the faith is empty. So keep praying, keep struggling. Don't say because you have that you are bad. It doesn't define you to be bad. It's about sin. And of course, again, avoid every occasion of sin. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let's give another round of applause. To guide us on the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the panel. We appreciate the round of applause once again, please. As we get down to take the seats, we want to go to the end of this program in a very fast way. We are now entering a phase of presentation of gifts, and I ask the panel responsible to please come forward and give the gifts to the respective persons. The first gift goes to our speaker, the guest speaker of the day, Dr. Wahone, please come forward to receive the gift. And then let's take up with our principal, Father Haruna, who will now give the presentation of